Hello, you are watching Shalom World News. I'm Rory McLennan coming to you from Glasgow, Scotland. Here are the latest headlines from around the world. As the Israel-Hamas conflict intensifies, the head of the World Jewish Congress met with Pope Francis in the Vatican on Thursday and sought his help in securing the release of hostages held by the Palestinian militants in Gaza. It's reported that there are 203 people being held hostage by Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Ronald Lauder told the Pope that he should use his power to get the hostages released. The Jewish leader said the Pope may be the only person who has the moral authority to do so. Meanwhile, there are media reports that the head of the Hamas security forces has been killed in Israeli attacks on Gaza. Hamas-linked news outlets said that Jehad Maisen and his family were killed in Israeli airstrikes on his residence in the Gaza Strip on Tuesday. In a rare Oval Office address, President Joe Biden of the United States made an impassioned appeal to the nation to demonstrate global leadership by supporting Israel and Ukraine. In the 15-minute address on Thursday, the 80-year-old president said he would make an urgent appeal to Congress to fund both Ukraine and Israel.
Hamas and Putin represent different threats, but they share this in common. They both want to completely annihilate a neighboring democracy, completely annihilate it. We can't let petty, partisan, angry politics get in the way of our responsibility as a great nation. We cannot and will not let terrorists like Hamas and tyrants like Putin win. I refuse to let that happen.
He also called for an end to anti-Semitism in the United States. In a significant development, the Central American country of Nicaragua has released 12 Catholic priests who were in prison on a variety of charges. After an agreement with the Vatican, the priests were all flown to Rome after their release. This was announced by the Sandinista government on Wednesday. Bishop Rolando Alvarez of the Diocese of Matagalpa was not among those released, however. Alvarez was sentenced on the 10th of February to 26 years and 4 months in prison. The release of the priests comes amid a period of persecution of the Church by the Sandinista government. Pope Francis received the President of the Irish Republic in a private audience at the Vatican on Thursday. President Michael Higgins was received by the Holy Father in the Apostolic Palace, and they had closed-door discussions aimed at enhancing bilateral ties. It is reported that the heads of state discussed issues of common interest, such as food security in developing nations and commitment to the elimination of poverty. They also discussed the issue of migrants and the need to protect the environment in light of the publication of the Pope's apostolic exhortation Laudate Deum. According to US sources, American troops have recently come under severe attacks in Iraq and Syria. Washington, D.C. is in high alert for activities by organizations with Iranian support as tensions in the region rise due to the Israel-Hamas conflict. US President Joe Biden has dispatched 2 aircraft carriers, several vessels, and nearly 2,000 Marines to the Middle East in the last 2 weeks. There has been an increase in attacks on US personnel since October the 7th, when Palestinian terrorists from Hamas attacked southern Israel. On Wednesday, a drone was downed, while another struck American troops in Syria, inflicting minor casualties. A recent study by the pontifical charity Aid to the Church in Need reveals that jihadists and other extremists are wreaking havoc on Christian communities in Africa, which is witnessing a 70% rise in violence. The study shows that Africa has seen an increase in Islamist violence, particularly in the Sahel, the Lake Chad Basin, Somalia and in Mozambique. Meanwhile, Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni said that Ugandan police have thwarted a plot by terrorists associated with the Islamic State to bomb churches in the country's central Butambala district. The president placed blame at the feet of the extremist organisation Allied Democratic Forces, which is connected to Islamic State. In 2016, the organisation swore allegiance to the terror group. It has been held responsible for several devastating attacks in Uganda, including the one in June that claimed the lives of over 40 people, mostly students, at a boarding school. Verkhovna Rada, the Ukrainian parliament, has made a decisive move in the direction of potentially outlawing the Ukrainian Orthodox Church of the Moscow Patriarchate. This decision was made during the first reading of the bill on the 19th of October, signifying a possible turning point in the religious landscape of Ukraine. The bill seeks to impose restrictions on religious organizations that engage in war propaganda or support the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The bill's voting results have been disclosed by Yaroslav Zelezniak of the opposition party Voice. 267 members of parliament have expressed their support for the proposed legislation, while 15 have voiced their opposition. Notably, 2 individuals chose to abstain from voting on the matter. A report by the Standing Committee on Human Rights reveals that 179 nationals are currently being held while they are accused of blasphemy and awaiting trial in Pakistan. Additionally, 17 individuals who have previously been found guilty of blasphemy are awaiting a new trial. Senator Walid Iqbal, the chairman of Pakistan's Senate Standing Committee on Human Rights, said blasphemy laws are often misused as a means to resolve personal issues and result in suffering and unfair collective punishment for minority communities. Meanwhile, a rights group applauded a Pakistani court's decision to grant bail to a Christian couple charged with blasphemy for allegedly desecrating the Quran. In a news release, the judgment was described as a departure from the norm of Pakistan's legal system by the UK-based Centre for Legal Aid, Assistance and Settlement. On the 18th of October, a judge granted bail to Kiran Bibi and Shaukat Masi, claiming a lack of proof of defilement of the Quran as required by Section 295B of the Pakistani Penal Code. Australia's Regulating Authority for Catholic Religious Institutions, CRA, has released a new national resource targeted at supporting religious groups in creating excellent formation practices. The second edition of Restoring and Nurturing Right Relationships takes a considerable step forward in its current iteration. This revised edition recognises the Australian Church's transformation into a new period of religious life, as shown by the Royal Commission into Institutional Responses to Child Sexual Abuse and the transforming effect of Pope Francis's recent objectives. Father Peter Jones, OSA, president of the CRA, emphasised Pope Francis's impact on the organisation's approach to the formative process. Father Jones said that the Holy Father emphasised the necessity of cultivating a sense of community and moving away from an individualistic attitude, as well as the need for a dynamic and participatory engagement with the people of God throughout the formative journey. Mahsa Amini, the 22-year-old Kurdish-Iranian woman who died in police custody in Iran last year, has been posthumously awarded the European Union's Sakharov Prize for Freedom of Thought. The award was started in 1988 to recognise individuals or groups who defend human rights and fundamental freedoms. Amini died on September the 16th last year, following her arrest for allegedly violating Iran's mandatory headscarf or hijab law. Her death triggered worldwide protests against the country's conservative Islamic theocracy. Months of protest followed, becoming one of the greatest political unrest the region had witnessed since the Islamic Revolution in 1979. Canada is due to legalise medically assisted dying for drug addicts in the country. Many pro-life activists have voiced their concerns by saying that the government has made death accessible. The nation's statute permitting medical assistance in dying, which went into effect for the first time in 2016, will be expanded in March next year to encompass individuals whose only medical condition is mental illness, which includes substance use disorders. However, before the adjustments are made, a special parliamentary committee on the law will reconvene to examine the implementation of the new rules. As of now, those who suffer from a grievous and irremediable medical condition, such as a significant illness or handicap that has caused them to experience advanced, irreversible deterioration and long-term bodily or emotional suffering, are qualified for assisted dying. An Arizona Supreme Court justice who has regularly stated his opposition to abortion has received support from a prominent state anti-abortion activist. Justice Bill Montgomery claimed in a 2017 Facebook post that Planned Parenthood is to blame for the biggest genocide ever committed by humanity. The organisation is challenging Arizona's current abortion law, and the state Supreme Court is set to rule whether or not the state can impose a total ban on abortion. Currently, abortion is legal for up to 15 weeks of pregnancy in Arizona. Montgomery is one of 7 justices on the state's High Court, which in December will hear oral arguments over whether a total abortion ban passed in 1864 still has legal force, or whether it was implicitly repealed when the state instituted a 15-week ban in 2022. Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders signed an executive order on Thursday forbidding the use of woke terminology in official papers. The expressions pregnant person, human milk, and birthing person are among terms outlawed and will be replaced with words that correctly represent and affirm the female gender. The Republican governor says that some terminology and expressions often used by the political left are meant to downplay the importance of women. She has opined that the movement to have the government reject language that ignores, reduces and erases the existence of women is gaining acceptance, and that the government should accept and celebrate the natural distinctions between men and women rather than attempting to annihilate them. And those are your latest headlines. Do join us again next time for more, and do remember in the meantime, you can always go to swnews.org for more updates. Shalom.